This young man is able to confront the existence of ancient evil gods. Now he is playing Monopoly with someone else. But the two people he is playing with are also not simple. One is Alice, a legal loli, who has lived for over 200 years. She is a council member of Black Door in LY City. Another one is the doll hatter full of mystery, responsible for taking care of Alice's daily life. Hans was originally going to bring Samuel to make a report, but when he arrived, he saw Alice and Hatter playing chess. The chess pieces on the board are quite distinct. It's easy to tell which one is Alice at a glance. Which one is Hatter? There is also Hans, who has not made a move yet. At this moment, Alice suddenly spoke up. Hatter, give him a chess piece. So, Hatter handed an uncarved chess piece to Samuel. Samuel looked puzzled. Does this mean I have to carve it myself? Alice noticed Samuel's embarrassment. She said to him, Grip it tightly. Then let go and see. Samuel did as instructed, gripping the chess piece tightly. In that moment, he felt a surge of mysterious energy flowing through him. He released his hand again. The chess piece had magically transformed into his own likeness. Seeing that the chess piece in Samuel's hand had already taken shape, Alice asked Samuel to participate together. Samuel was taken aback, not expecting that he would also have to join in. Playing along wouldn't be a big deal. Hans just kindly added a word. He told Samuel that the gray chess pieces beside them were the members of the former Black Door LY City branch that had passed away. These gray chess pieces occasionally move as well. But it's not common. No need to be afraid if you see them. Samuel's heart skipped a beat when he heard that. It's quite scary. Meanwhile, Hans continued to report to Alice as if nothing had happened. Members participating in the Ubum cult ritual. They are all registered citizens of LY City. Through various pyramid scheme tactics, they were instigated to join the organization. Some other traces were found at the scene, so some investigations were carried out. Saying that, Hans handed a photo to Alice. There was only a blurry dark shadow in it. He continued, Behind Ubum, there is a larger organization called Pioneer Church, which was born during the Great Depression a century ago. It has gathered a large number of antisocial elements. It started with gatherings and terrorist attacks. Later, they came into contact with the knowledge of mystery. They discovered more powerful weapons of destruction. That is, the evil gods. Within the church, there are 12 rituals for communicating with ancient evil gods. Ubum is just one of them. And their core is Tiny Man. Alice asked again, Tiny Man? Is it a person, a demon, or some kind of sacred artifact? But her attention was completely on the game. Hans couldn't provide an answer to this question. However, it didn't matter because Alice was too absorbed in playing to care. In the end, the atmosphere ended with Alice sulking and the Hatter laughing heartily, concluding the presentation. Samuel thought it would be a very serious report, but it turned into a half-day game of chess. But Tiny Man is definitely worth paying attention to. It sounds very dangerous. The next step is to experiment with the newly acquired sacred artifacts. Demon Relic. The Republic effect is to create a will. In the ideal kingdom, Samuel closes his eyes. He starts constructing his own divine kingdom. The next moment, the world that Samuel constructed in his mind appears before him. Crossing through the light screen leads to the space extending from the room. This place completely reproduced the appearance in Samuel's imagination. Even Samuel himself did not expect it to be restored to this extent. Above the dome hangs a picture of 81 tribulations, showing that he is the god above the 81 tribulations. In the center of the round table is a figure that cannot be seen, representing that he is a great existence sunk in the deep sea. The only downside is that in the Republic, Samuel can only construct inanimate objects for now. However, for him as he is now, it is already completely sufficient. In this realm, Samuel is the supreme ruler, possessing high authority. He can also use rituals and other methods to allow others to connect as well. However, he doesn't need followers as crazy and foolish as those in the Ubium cult. What Samuel needs are followers who can help him anchor and maintain the mystery. Both sides communicate closely and get what they need. He also needs a secret society to support his role as the deity of Luodu's mystery. Sitting at the head of the round table of the 12 palaces, Samuel begins to plan the ceremonies needed for his grand presence. However, before he could finish his thoughts, he involuntarily exited the mental space. The current Samuel only has one feeling, and that is an unbearable thirst. His throat feels as dry as if it's on fire. A bulging bag. It seems like there are still a lot of things inside. He opened it up and found. These are things that can be bought at a pharmacy. There is also a thoughtful instruction manual included. Upon opening it, I realized that it is a creative fusion of sacred artifacts using the power of sacred artifacts. Otherwise, it will become a disposable sacred artifact. After putting all the materials into the water, Samuel focused and activated the sacred artifacts. The next moment, a dazzling light burst forth. All the materials converged to form a cross shape. Samuel gave his own genes. He injected all his thoughts, inspirations, and more. A few threads extend from the cross. At the end of the threads hangs a doll. What puzzled Samuel is that it should have been according to his model. How could it look so ugly? He didn't dwell on it too much. Samuel uses flame kindling again. He wants to communicate his perception to it. The next moment, the puppet instantly grows to human size. This is a demon relic. Frank's effect is to create intelligently. Marionette. Samuel did not expect the mishap of experimenting with sacred artifacts. He was so scared that he immediately wanted to use his phone to ask Hans what was going on. But when he made a move, he was surprised to find that the puppet beside him also made a movement. Turning his head, he saw that the puppet completely replicated his movement. Samuel tentatively made a few more movements and found that the puppet indeed completely mimicked him. On top of the latter movement, Samuel also comes with sound effects. The doll is not to be outdone. It imitates the voice perfectly. After several experiments, Samuel couldn't withstand the ordeal. He found some food to recover his strength. The puppet on the side was not idle either. It ate with Samuel. Interestingly, when the puppet was eating, Samuel also felt a certain level of fullness. In that case, Samuel was actually trying to experiment with the doll's death and see how it would impact himself. The result was that Samuel was like being drunk. He leaned over the toilet vomiting repeatedly. The price of death for a puppet is severe stomach and headache. The intense feeling of vomiting cannot be stopped at all. He took out the puppet's summoning stand again. At this moment, it has also become dim and lifeless. Samuel, who had recovered his composure, recalled the description in the manual. This doll reflects the monster released from the human heart. What exactly was going on in his own heart? For a moment, Samuel was at a loss for thoughts. He tried using the cross again. The attempt was unsuccessful. However, Samuel also received a message that if the stand-in doll dies, it will take 3 days to recover. Samuel then turned his gaze to the remaining materials in the material pack. This time, he wanted to save some effort and directly used all the materials in the material pack. There is no problem with the question itself, it's just that the development direction is a bit strange. His shocked expression looks unnaturally twisted. The 4 puppets are in strange positions, tightly huddled together. It's hard not to make people suspect if he has some perverted thoughts in his mind. Samuel went to great lengths to separate them. Next is to use the sacred artifact's flame kindling on them. After much consideration, he decided to inject the news that the Republic will open at 10 o'clock on Saturday night into these puppets. At the same time, he also included instructions on how to use the puppets. That night, Samuel experimented with 2 sacred artifacts and used the sacred artifact flame kindling on them. Now, he is exhausted both mentally and physically, lying on the sofa, and eventually falling asleep. In his dream, he once again arrived in the familiar deep sea. He looked up and saw that the depth had dropped by 1,000 meters. He had already reached 11,000 meters. Although it was much better than the sudden drop of 5,000 meters last time, it was still too fast. But Samuel was in for more surprises. As he descended slowly, he heard the clinking sound of iron chains. Looking around, he saw iron chains densely covering the surroundings. When he turned around, he found a huge face looming close. So this is the relic of the demon, the former owner of the Republic. After Samuel obtained the Republic, he also had the opportunity to choose, just like Plato. One is to change his own life, to become another Plato, and take over his anchor, preventing himself from getting lost in the deep sea. But Samuel doesn't intend to do so. He firmly chooses another path, to rebuild his own anchoring system from scratch. Playing the role of someone else for a lifetime is something his self-esteem will never allow. Although unspoken, Plato sensed Samuel's choice and slowly turned away, leaving. Looking at the departing Plato, Samuel murmured softly to himself, "Sorry, I still prefer to be myself." The next day, Samuel came to school as usual. However, his mind was completely elsewhere and not on studying. Before coming to the school, he placed 2 franc dolls among the commercial street and school shrines. Therefore, Samuel is looking forward to the birth of his first follower. But when the first follower appears, Samuel was shocked again. Through the shrine, Samuel dimly sensed. This time, the object of prayer should be a mouse. When Samuel arrived at the scene, he found. Sure enough, it was the spiritual little white mouse from before. Although the process was extremely difficult, the little white mouse successfully formed a formation. They held a prayer ceremony. The next moment, the franc doll appeared in front of the little white mouse. Samuel had long ago imprinted the instructions for using the doll through flame kindling on the doll itself. The little white mouse knew how to use it as soon as they touched it. It injected its own genes, inspiration, thoughts, etc. into the doll, establishing a connection with it. The doll, under the gaze of the white mouse, gradually grew to human size. Samuel on the side also didn't expect such a development to unfold next. He watched in shock. After the transformation of the doll was completed, it appeared in the form of Ratman, still wearing the school's student uniform. The scenes happening before its eyes have already exceeded the white mouse's understanding. It can only proceed to the next step based on the information it receives, touching the doll generated based on itself as the template. The next moment, the white mouse's memories were transferred to the doll. Originally, it was just like any other white mouse, simply a subject of the experiment. Unwilling to accept the status quo, it escaped from the laboratory with its fellow white mice. After arriving at the school, it mingled with the school's group of mice. Relying on its superior intelligence, it became the leader of the mouse group. With the help of the little mouse brothers, it obtained books and absorbed knowledge of the human world. As memories gradually merged, the little white mouse was amazed to discover that it had entered the perspective of a puppet. The puppet faithfully replicated the movements of the little white mouse. The mouse was also experiencing human behavioral patterns through the puppet. Just like a new human, the little white mouse is still not very used to human movements. It even struggles a lot to walk. Samuel hiding behind the tree. He looked on in amazement. This little white mouse is indeed too smart. This also made Samuel realize that his puppet could be used not only on humans. The type of puppet generated depends on the user's mindset. It seems that this little white rat has cultivated a more human-like way of thinking. There seems to be a lot of uncertainty lurking now. However, Samuel is looking forward to future developments. Samuel, who was hiding behind a tree observing Ratman, heard some movement. There was a group of students behind him, walking towards this side, chatting and laughing. Samuel was startled. Not good, someone is coming. The little white mouse will be discovered like this. The little white mouse climbing the tree also noticed this scene. When Samuel turned around and looked at the white mouse, he found that the white mouse was gone. There were only a few curled up fallen leaves, proving that it had left not long ago. Samuel breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, he wasn't discovered. He was about to leave when he heard a notification sound. It was Hans looking for him to provide some information. Just after school, Samuel hurried to Black Door as fast as he could. He opened the door and saw an unfamiliar face he had never seen before. The insignia on his chest was very eye-catching. At a glance, you could tell he was from the cabinet. After the person left, Samuel greeted everyone. "Good evening, gentlemen and ladies." Alice seemed to have other things to attend to. After greeting Samuel, she returned to her own office. The remaining matters will all be left for Hans to inform Samuel about. After the two of them sat down, Hans told Samuel that the person just now was the secretary of the cabinet secretary, quite an impressive figure. Calling you over also has to do with this matter. In LY City, directly contact the cabinet regarding the commission file of the Black Door. As he was speaking, Hans handed a file to Samuel. After receiving it, Samuel puzzledly asked, "What are we supposed to do now?" Hans explained to Samuel that this is the information of Pioneer Church. It is a highly terrorist-colored religious group. It is only recorded in the Black Door files. There are over 100 suspected Pioneer Church rituals conducted, or the locations prepared for the rituals. You have been assigned 30 of them here. We will investigate separately and then report back. Looking at the files in his hands, Samuel thought about his newly set up the Republic. These investigative tasks could be used as scenarios for the Republic members' role-playing campaign. The Republic's first gathering is this Saturday. Although Samuel's performance has been outstanding so far, considering he is still a newcomer, Hans couldn't help but remind him with a sentence. "Contact us timely if you encounter any situation." At that moment, a knock on the door sounded. "Is anyone there?" "Your express delivery." Upon opening the door, they found a deliverman dressed like a racing driver. He asked, "Gentlemen, who will sign for this letter?" Hans got up and took the letter. After the deliverman completed his task, he turned around and left without a moment's pause. Samuel couldn't help but admire. "He's truly like the wind." Hans opened the letter, and as he read, his brow furrowed. It seemed to indicate something not very pleasant. Samuel took in Hans's expression with curiosity and asked, "Sir, what's wrong?" Hans replied, "This is a transfer notice. Headquarters is transferring a few members over to our team." Samuel felt a bit confused. Someone coming over should be a good thing, right? Hans sighed helplessly. It's hard to explain in just a few words. You'll see when he arrives, no later than next week. Judging by Hans's reaction, Samuel had some suspicions. It seems like it's going to be a troublesome individual. After the matter was settled, Samuel prepared to go home. Unexpectedly, when he rushed to catch the elevator, he encountered the delivery guy he had just met. The two of them went downstairs together. Arriving downstairs, the delivery guy hopped on his motorcycle. He warmly asked Samuel where he was going, and if he needed a ride. Samuel politely waved his hand in an embarrassed manner. "No, thank you." The delivery guy is indeed very warm-hearted. Following the revelation of the gods, Dory arrived at the commercial street. She found the most ordinary telephone booth. Upon entering, she felt as if she was being watched by a transcendent deity. At the same time, Dory also saw what was inside the phone booth, a shrine arranged by Samuel. This reminded her of the rituals held during her undercover mission in the cult. The power of the two was very similar, as if emanating from the abyss. Samuel, who was far away in school, felt the movement within the shrine. Someone is praying in front of the shrine on the commercial street. Samuel immediately guessed who it was. He thought she wasn't going to come. Didn't expect she still came. Dory over here. After praying in front of the shrine. The scene of the white mouse holding a ceremony is reflected in her mind. This scene astonishes her greatly. Luckily, she had been to the convenience store before coming. She could barely gather the materials needed for the ceremony formation. The ceremony is now complete. Dory closes her eyes in concentration. She is trying to make contact with the gods. So she saw the information that Samuel had stored in the shrine long ago. Saturday night at 10 o'clock. The mystical hall will open. Then the hanging rack for summoning the Frank puppet appeared. Dory followed the instructions. She placed her own genes. She inputted her inspiration, thoughts, and more into it. The doll started to emit light. The expression in Dory's gaze began to change. Before long, the transformation into a puppet was successful. It resembled Dory in body shape, but had a total of 9 faces. By the time Dory walked out of the phone booth, it was already evening. Looking at the dim cross in her hand, she was still a little confused. The puppet that appeared earlier disappeared as soon as it hit the ground. She didn't understand what had happened. But in the end, she made up her mind. She decided to go meet this great presence in the deep sea. It's almost Saturday. Samuel's original expectations. He didn't expect the first mystical hall. Just to have 2 people participate. Before mystical hall opens, Samuel took out the file that Hans gave him to investigate. He picked and chose until he finally found one. A file suitable for a trial run. He wants to use it as the script for the first role-playing session at Mystical Hall. Although most of the files at Black Door are based on rumors or events and then filed by the divination house, whether they are suitable or not, Samuel still needs to confirm it himself. Samuel wasted no time and came to the scene of the file on the same night in KG district of LY City. This is one of the places in LY City where many young people gather. Just occasionally there are some gray area practices related to certain industries that make Samuel's eyes widen in surprise. Following the address in the file, Samuel found this tram theater. The play showing inside is Macbeth. I didn't expect this kind of theater, which is on the brink of closure, to have this kind of production. After entering, the people on stage were performing seriously. There were scattered audience members sitting below, making it look quite desolate. After watching for a while, Samuel's mouth twitched. It's not easy to turn such a classic production into something so boring, to be honest. Samuel naturally didn't come to watch the play. His attention was entirely focused on the giant skeleton in the middle of the stage. According to the Black Door information, this is a demon that emerges from the moho. It is currently in the abyssal layer, so it seems most suitable for use in a tabletop role-playing game. The depth of the deep sea where this demon resides is so profound that without strong inspiration, it is indeed hard to perceive, significantly reducing the risk of being discovered by the demon. The danger of a direct attack is lowered. This is a realm beyond the reach of ordinary people. It is the supreme deity above all 99,811 gods, an unparalleled existence beneath the deep sea, built by the Republic. And today, a mysterious meeting will be held here. Under the reminder of the alarm clock, Samuel knew it was time to open the Republic's mystical hall. At the same time, a little white mouse built a compartment for itself with rubble, hiding inside to conduct a ceremony. Dory also started praying in the empty laboratory. The moment Samuel activated the sacred artifacts, the 3 of them established a connection under supernatural power. When the hamster and Dory regained consciousness, they found themselves in the mystical hall and were stunned by the magnificent building before them. They were both in the form of Frank dolls. Radman, the hamster who entered the mystical hall, looked around in confusion and was a bit unsure of the situation. The 9 heads dolls in the form of Dory each have different expressions. It is hard to tell her psychological state, but she also stood frozen in place without moving. It seems she was also stunned by the miracle before her. Fortunately, the 12-round table in the center of the mystical hall is very conspicuous. Samuel's doll is right at the center. Upon seeing the arrival of the two individuals, Samuel feels very satisfied. The reason for them appearing in doll form is to conceal their true identities, and to each create a sense of mystery. When the two people arrived at the round table, Samuel's doll suddenly grew larger, startling the two. The transformed doll was covered in a radiant glow, making its face indiscernible. In a cold and lofty tone it said, "Why do you two intrude upon my mystery?" Upon hearing the mention of mystery, they asked inquiringly. The little white mouse and Dory were both dumbfounded. How should one respond here? Dory is, after all, a university advisor. She has a very rigorous personality. Let's first see what Ratman has to say. Turning around, I found that it had been praying devoutly all along. It seems that we can't count on it for anything. But it's just stuck like this. The ceremony can't go on. So Dory thought for a moment and replied, "It was a coincidence that I came here." Samuel's response, "Why glimpse my mystery? He does so to maintain his own sense of mystery. After all, which mystery would willingly explain itself?" However, in Dory's heart, a great storm was brewing. She felt interrupted. Therefore, this is not the correct answer. After some further consideration, Dory spoke up. "I came here guided by the shrine in my time of peril." Samuel remained aloof. Not a single superfluous word was uttered upon glimpsing my mystery. Dory was momentarily at a loss. Could it be that she is going to miss out on the existence of this mystery? While Dory was in a daze, she heard the voice of Ratman next to her. "Cheese." She incredulously looked at Ratman, who was praying fervently. "Cheese? What's that all about?" She really didn't understand what this guy was trying to convey. But to Dory's surprise, the chair in front of Ratman moved. After Ratman sat down, his expression remained devout. Dory looked at him, pondering the connection between the cheese in his mouth and the answer. At this moment, Samuel turned to look at Dory. "Why do I sense my mystery being peered into?" Dory thought to herself. "It seems my turn now. I have no right to sit if I don't answer correctly." However, as a university mentor, Dory's intelligence naturally wouldn't be lacking. Since cheese can be the answer, it indicates that the answer is not fixed. He is asking again, "Why do I sense my mystery being peered into?" On this thought, Dory suddenly grasped the key point. He isn't asking me how I came here. He is asking about my needs. So she took a step forward and spoke out her guest answer. Just as she finished speaking, the chair suddenly moved, indicating that she could sit down. Samuel's original intention was to ask them what they wanted. Through this question, one can understand a person's desires, personality, aspirations, and so on. It seems that Dory is a meticulous and purposeful person now. This fits well with his requirements for believers. Dory is very eager to learn. He asked right away as soon as he sat down. "Excuse me for being presumptuous, may I ask where this place is? Are you the great presence within the shrine?" Samuel answered in a profound and mysterious way to maintain his mystery. "This is my mystery. I come from the truth. You can also call me this way, because chasing the mystic will eventually return to the truth." Upon hearing this, Dory showed no outward reaction, but inside, he was very excited. He has been pursuing the mystery world for a long time. Now he finally stands at the threshold. So she continued to pursue. "Dr. Veritas, can you help me to connect with the mystery world?" Samuel didn't respond. A scroll slowly descended from the sky. Then it began to burn. This is what Samuel had chosen before. The file about Tram Theater. Dory continued, "Dr. Veritas, I only have experience dealing with dead bodies. Can I exchange this for mystery?" As Dory looked on, she gradually understood her own meaning. Samuel, in The Republic, used the power of poetry to create a map of the KG district out of thin air. Then he said, "You exchange this for mystery." I gave mystery, and pointed to the location of the tram theater on the holographic map. Dory suddenly understood. Tentatively asked, "Is the so-called mystery present here?" Then she turned to look at Ratman. "Mr. Rat, what do you think?" Ratman looked at Dory with a silly look on his face, as if asking, "Why did you call me?" Dory looked very depressed after hearing Ratman's words. She didn't understand at all, but she remained calm. She must be a master to stay so composed. Samuel, who knows Ratman inside out, felt slightly helpless. You can't just bluff your way through like that. Dory is also helpless in this situation. She can't communicate with Ratman, so she has to keep asking Samuel, "Do you need the mystery from Tram Theater here? If I can bring it back, can we make an exchange?" Samuel thought to himself, finally getting to the point. He subtly guided them, hoping they would make a request. This aligns with his grand design of existence. In this age of information explosion, playing God is easily seen through. It's better to let them ask questions themselves and figure it out on their own. There's no need to speak unless necessary. Just guide them to express their needs. However, some formalities are required before agreeing to the exchange. So Samuel raised his hand. A 20-sided die appeared. He said, "An object of mystery, indescribable, all determined by fate. What can be revealed, the dark dice cannot tell." Then he tossed the dice to Dory. The dice were just used to create a sense of mystery. For the Master of the Republic, whether it is light or dark, it all depends on a single thought of Samuel. Dory threw the dice. The bright side faced up. Samuel's voice came through. Facing up, sharing mystery for a fair exchange, this means Samuel agreed to the swap. The matter of sharing mystery has come to a close. Samuel pointed to the 9981 Tribulations diagram and said to the two people, "There is a name in the Hall of Mystery. You can choose a code name." The mouse saw a picture of a white mouse stealing candlelight and immediately had an idea. The code name in the Republic is White Mouse. Dory chose a portrait. Nine Heads stole the Buddha treasure. She was awarded the title of Nine Heads. Just as Nine Heads and White Mouse chose their respective codenames, Dr. Veritas spoke up. "The time for today has come." The mystery falls back into silence. After 7 days of sinking, he said no more. His figure slowly dissipated. White Rat and Nine Heads stood still in place, dumbfounded. Dr. Veritas had left. What should they do? The next moment, Dory was astonished to find herself back in the laboratory. However, she was still a bit shocked by this. She even started to doubt if she was dreaming. She looked at her watch. The meeting had only lasted for a short 10 minutes. But she felt like she had been there for a long time. Looking at the formation in front of her, Dory was lost in thought, although she had no idea what kind of being Dr. Veritas was. However, the divine messengers of the Ubium sect also frequently pray to something. They should be similar beings to Dr. Veritas. Judging from Dr. Veritas's performance, they should not be inferior to the one from the Ubium sect. It's finally connected to the mystery world. It's time to consider how to delve deeper now. I need to have my own chips in order to exchange mysteries with Dr. Veritas. It seems that the only option now is to go to the Tram Theater in KG District for investigation. Thinking of this, Dory took down the disguised props hanging on the wall. In no time at all, she transformed back into the captivating appearance she had when infiltrating the Ubium cult. The first time opening the mystical hall for Samuel was quite a burden. Fortunately, with the experience from last time, he prepared plenty of drinking water in advance. The time is kept to around 10 minutes. This is mainly to reduce the risk of exposure while maintaining a mysterious image. Although the process was a bit convoluted, both Nine Heads and White Rat should understand now. They need to investigate the situation at KG District Tram Theater. The next step is to wait for the results. You won't have any losses anyway. After falling asleep, Samuel once again found himself in his deep sea. He saw 2 thick and long anchor lines. No doubt they belonged to White Rat and 9 Heads. The effect of the gathering is really immediate. As for some small branching anchor lines, they should be the branching anchors established by White Rat. After all, it is the leader of the rat pack. Anyway, everything is moving in a positive direction. The next day, Samuel went to school as usual. He came to the library to quietly enjoy the afternoon. Today, neither the squirrel, the mouse, nor the silly cat went to pray at the shrine. It was truly a rare and peaceful day. Suddenly, a phone landed on the book in front of Samuel. It startled Samuel. It turned out that Sean was watching a popular horror video. He specifically came to find Samuel to share it with him. Samuel expressed no interest. For someone who is used to seeing demons, this kind of childish pretend horror video really doesn't pique his interest. Samuel also specifically reminded Sean to speak more quietly. Don't end up getting yourself kicked out of the library as well. But Samuel is very close to Sean. Although the sound on his phone is very low, he can still hear the intro. This is Beheading Loop. Sean immediately got excited. He even said you weren't interested. You clearly heard it as soon as you listened to it. How can Samuel explain this? Do you mean telling him that Black Door suspects Beheading Loop? Is it using the internet to create demons? But this is a good opportunity. Just right from this loyal fan Sean. Understand the situation of Beheading Loop. Samuel put down the book. Asked Sean, "Why is Beheading Loop so popular?" Sean replied without lifting his head. "It's good quality. The atmosphere is really eerie. The sense of immersion is very strong." Samuel continued to ask, "In your opinion, do you think this video was made by an individual or a team?" Sean hesitated. He wasn't too sure either. It probably wasn't made by just one person. Those ghosts must have used special effects. Unless he filmed real ghosts. Sean made a joke, but it made Samuel think deeply. Real ghosts? Rumor has it that there is a deceased transfer student. Filled with resentment, they turned into a ghost haunting the school. Every year, they appear in a classroom, but no one can detect them. If someone discovers that there is an extra person in the class, they have found the ghost that has infiltrated. The next day, they will fall to their death. Originally, Samuel just wanted to find Sean. He wanted to investigate the matter of the beheading loop. Sean suddenly stopped Betty, who was passing by, which was unexpected. Betty is watching a video of beheading loop. She doesn't want to bother with Sean at all. But she paused when she saw Samuel. And Sean stopped Betty, because he wanted her to show Samuel around the beheading loop area. Upon hearing that Samuel wanted to see, Betty quickly brought out the surrounding products. It was a pendant. Upon hearing about the pendant, Sharon appeared like a ghost and scared Sean, who instantly turned to stone. Later, she took out 2 strands of authentic shrine-produced pendants for warding off evil spirits. Where there is money to be made, there will indeed be these charlatans.